Okay, I am parked in my car on PCH near Malibu, next to the ocean right now. That's what's beyond like the super blown out windows here. Um, and I've just been on sort of like a vlogging kick lately, which has felt really great and felt really embodied. And like, I don't know. I felt like filming some things just from like sitting in my car. So, and there's probably like a bunch of noise in the background. So, anyway, I wanted to share that this past year, I have grown a lot spiritually. And I also wanted to share what I've learned about going to psychic readings and tapping into your intuition and the right way to sort of pick your right psychic, like what you can take and what is more, what is something that is less bound by spirituality and soul contracts and all that stuff. So, yeah, anyway. So, I went to my first psychic, I think when I was like 22 or something. My sister actually introduced me. She was a spiritual counselor, meaning that she doesn't use any sort of physical mediums. She just, she channels herself and she is psychic and she's intuitive, but she also does a lot of more therapizing and counseling as opposed to just straight up telling you how you should live your life. And she was based in Santa Barbara. And I remember like seeing her for the first time was like validating, but also confusing to me because I had like only just started to tap into spirituality and to trust it. And, I was sort of like, okay, well, I like crystals. I sort of watch like tarot readings online. Like, I like some spiritual, like, law of attraction sort of, kind of content. And that was back in what, like 2010 or something. And then a lot of shit has evolved from then. But like, I was just getting, into spirituality. And this psychic was telling me, like, she was like, you have a story to tell in this life. And she was telling me a lot of the standout things that she told me were because I was like, at that point, I wasn't dating that much. And I was still pretty isolated and like pretty like dissociated. And she was like, don't worry, you're going to be dating a lot in your 30s. And then cut to, I'm 35 right now. And that was probably when I was about 22, 23. I've dated much more in my 30s than I did in my 20s. And she also told me, now I've seen a couple of different psychics since then, but like she was the first psychic to tell me about some of my past lives. And she said that I've had a few past lives where I was a writer. And I bring that into each of my lives now. And I feel that. And maybe it's not so much writer specifically anymore as it is storyteller or, or person who needs to express out loud their thoughts all the time, like vlogger and like, or a podcaster or a YouTuber. So this is my evil eye bracelet. Every time I wear this, it does feel like I'm protected. I take it when I travel with me, and it does feel like it gives me safe travel. Okay, anyway. What was I going to say? So, I went to the psychic, and she told me, like, my past lives, I have been a writer, and I bring it into each of my lives. And then, in some most recent past lives, so I have been in England twice in two of my lives. One of my lives, I suspect I was a writer in England, which makes sense. And then in another one, they were like, you owned some big business or you were something like that. And I have this suspicion that, because I feel this right now, that I was somewhat of a controlling or even corrupt leader, because it feels like in this lifetime, a lot of the themes that I'm learning are around control and sense of self and control. And like, I think that's kind of crazy, but it's like I feel it intuitively. And what's funny is in college, I was really drawn to study abroad for a little bit in Cambridge, England. And so I did, and I just felt like this feels right. This feels like home. This feels familiar. And I thought it was crazy. But yeah, that was sort of my first psychic experience where the psychic was tapping into a lot of me initially. And then she was telling me like, like you essentially will do well after you've had some challenges. And it was tough to hear that, but I think what she really meant was that you need to develop yourself through some of these hard times in your life. And I've had those. And it's been a string of health issues, of like also understanding family trauma and ancestral healing. And like that first psychic experience was a good read on me. And then since then, I had been to psychics multiple times to talk about my career stuff, to talk about different people that I've been dating, to talk about my family. And the thing is the way that I use psychic readings now is sort of extra confirmation when I feel that I'm getting messages from my higher self or my guides. But I think when I initially started getting into psychics and also going into tarot readings and then like looking at tarot readings online, a lot of it was sort of, you could say, with anything, to be honest, but you could say, obviously, like sort of codependent. Sort of like, well, I have to know exactly what this guy I'm dating is thinking. I have to know what's going to happen. And there's a lot of, like, when you see a psychic and you want to be like, I want to know when I'm going to get married. I want to know when I have a kid. Sometimes they have that answer for you, which is interesting. Sometimes they don't. And a lot of the times you have free will anyway to not do things on that timeline. And what I noticed, this has to do with how I think about soul contracts and divine timing versus your own free will, basically. I have the personal belief that each of us has some sort of soul contract that is more or less binding than other people. And for me, when the psychic had told me before, which is what I felt intuitively, when she told me, like, you are kind of like a writer of some sort, or a storyteller, I guess, in each of your lives. And she had told me also specifically, keep writing, trust me. Like she said that to me once. And I've had other psychics tell me like, do you write stories? Are you some sort of storyteller? Because like you have some creative thing that you're meant to share. Like I've had that kind of reading before, and they were telling me a lot, like, and it's going to work out. It's going to and it's so interesting because I'm just kind of like, is that just what you want to hear? And I honestly I don't think so, because I feel like, okay, now getting back to how the psychic reading works and how like the people pick up on those things and like soul contracts and stuff. I feel like if you are a person who has some sort of clear contract or purpose in your life, which we all do, like if someone's intuitive, they may not, and if they're a psychic, they may not tell you exactly what it is. They're not going to be like, you are exactly going to make multiple YouTube videos on spirituality and the law of attraction. Like she's like, they might not tell you that specifically, but they may tell you have a storytelling, or what they may understand as a writing ability. And like, it's really funny because like I've understood now, because like I have gone through different like creative mediums. At first it was like, yeah, I love writing. And then I was like, no, I love screenwriting. And like, I love songwriting. I love singing. Like now I want to vlog. Now I want like, and I've kind of noticed that at this point, I believe my soul contract says something, if it could literally say something, it would probably be like, just shares her thoughts and feelings. Like it would probably just be like, it would probably just have been like some sort of storyteller, but the medium doesn't really matter. And like, I was thinking about how like, I don't know that a lot of people see things that way, but anyway, so I was, like thinking about that. And then when I've gone to psychics also, like I will ask them about, in the past, like I will want, since that is so sort of like prominent, since people can, like, since some of the psychics I've talked to, like can pick up on that sort of purpose that I have. Like I ask them about other things because I assume those things must be just as contractual and must be just as like known, right? I don't think that's true for everything. Like I think that there are some people, for example, who have even more freedom in their career, and it's like their mediums could be like they could be anything where they work with people, you know? Like there could be anything where they essentially are analytical. For me, mine specifically seems to be storytelling of some sort, you know? And I think some people have somewhat binding contracts towards like relationships with other people, because some people are really defined by moments in their lives that were related to romantic relationships. For me, it feels like my life is very much tied to familial, like to ancestral healing. But and the romantic relationships are less important. But there are some people who are completely transformed and like completely like developed through their romantic relationships or their friendships or their careers. And so I think really when you go to a psychic and you're looking for those things and you're like, well, why can't you tell me exactly when I'm going to get married? Why can't you tell me exactly what my career is going to be? I don't know if everyone consciously understands this or believes it, but they might not pick up on everything because you have actually more free will in those areas. And the only things that they could probably accurately predict that may happen at some point in your life is you have a purpose to do this. You have a purpose in meeting with this person. But everything else is not so set in stone. So that's why I also think, you know, when I think about psychicness and like, sorry, I'm looking at, there's this beautiful V formation of these birds. Again, they're like, are they pelicans? Okay, anyway. They may fly over. Do you see them? Okay, no. But anyway, total sidebar. But like, when you, what was I saying? What was I saying? Oh, that's what I was saying. So when you go to a psychic and you're like, what's the point? Because she's not going to tell me when my next boyfriend's going to come. You know, she's not, or sometimes they do. But like, what is the point if you don't get exact? I think I've learned that it's helpful to go to psychics and intuitives to sort of confirm my personal energy and my sort of energy blueprint, if that makes sense. Like, I think it's helped me, especially as a person who's a creative and now intuitive and a healer. It's helped me confirm that that is not just something that I've run away to, but it's something that does feel correct to me. And like, I think that the best way for me, I don't know, see if it resonates for you, but the best way for me to use intuitives is to help bridge my help me strengthen my own intuition, help confirm my intuition. And I do believe that we have some sort of angels and guides. And again, we have some sort of purpose in our lives. So I think it's nice to sort of like check in with your guides via psychic medium and kind of ask like, am I on this path? Is this going to according to my spiritual growth? Am I intuiting this correctly? And yeah, sometimes it's just confirmation, but that's why it is kind of helpful when you're like looking for psychics and they end up being psychic counselors rather than the type of people who just tell you exactly what they think is going to happen. So here are some things to look out for when you are trying to pick a psychic and when you want to approach a psychic reading the right way. So first of all, not every psychic is going to be the same because they're still different people. As much as we would like to do a blanket statement and say like all psychics are frauds or not all psychics are frauds, psychics at the end of the day are still people, and they still have levels of how much they feel blocked and limited, and they still have their own personal interpretation that might be skewed by their own personality and their ego. So you still have to find the right people who speak to you in a way that you resonate with. Like, for example, when I was talking about like that first psychic that I went to, I really like her, but she is of an era that is a bit older. And so sort of the advice can sound a little bit less progressed, in my opinion. And she may interpret it in a way that I don't think I resonate with. You know, like she could say like, well, you just have to, you know, be tougher, blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, no, actually, I became tougher through being emotional. You know, like there's some ways that people interpret things that aren't correct. Like another way that like you need to be careful is, you know, I've been to psychics who do speak as if their messages should be like really confident and like really blunt, but really empowering and like tough love. And the thing is even with that, that's not, first of all, good for your nervous system. And second of all, it's not entirely accurate. You know, like I will have had a psychic who would tell me like, oh, that guy was bad news. You shouldn't have dated him. And like, see, but you know, but you made that mistake. And like, if a psychic is telling you that a thing that you did was a mistake, I actually don't think that's accurate because I don't think that the things that you do could be, you know, like I think if you went through a time where you had to learn about something about yourself, either way, I think you needed to learn that lesson in your lifetime. You needed that lesson for growth. So even if it came through something hard, it would be preferable that it wouldn't be difficult. But the fact of the matter is that situation put you, like that situation catapulted you to some sort of growth. So if a psychic says, that was really bad for you, why did you do that? Like, and they don't tie it to, oh, but that was something that helped you learn something. That doesn't feel right to me. Like, I don't, so, you know, there shouldn't be a level of them honestly interpreting things as God, because they can't. But I think when you do talk to a psychic about like, was this path right? Was that path right? Whatever, they can sense, for example, decisions that you're making that could be out of anxiety, and decisions that you're making that may be on the right, like that are on the right path. You know, they could be like, you know, no matter what you do, your purpose is still to be led to this thing. You know, I feel like that is a really helpful way to talk about what's happened in your life, you know, because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like when a lot of psychics are like very blunt with like, that shouldn't have happened, or why did you do that, or you went through this unnecessarily hard time. I don't think there is. I think either way, it could be easier from now going forward, but you going through that time either way helped you in your growth. And whatever way you found to do it, that itself was supposed to happen. So anyway, I don't know if any of that made sense, but yeah, when you're picking a psychic, I think maybe like, now this is kind of hard, especially because they don't have like consultations for free. So if you are going to a psychic for the first time, then I suggest make it shorter so that it's cheaper, so you get to know what type of person they are. And like, I would make the questions more about like, how does this serve my soul's higher purpose? How does this serve my growth? And am I moving in the direction like that would serve my growth? And that's where you would probably get the most accurate and the most guided messages. Because the other part of it is, when you think about the spiritual realm, timing is not as linear as it is in the sort of 3D realm. Like, you could be like, when do I get this thing? And like, yeah, maybe some people can interpret it as like, oh, you're about to get that in about a year or so. But then some people would just be like, well, you would get that at whatever time it takes you to learn this lesson. because that is divine timing. Like, if you want to think about divine timing and psychics, like, and if they kind of say like, well, it has to happen in divine timing, and you're like, well, that's a cop out. No, divine timing to me means it happens at the pace of your growth. And like, I think most psychics would probably, like, hopefully kind of make sure that that's clear, because whatever it is, like, you have the free will to grow at a different pace. And I think your awareness helps speed that up, and also sometimes makes things slow down. But either way, I don't think you miss the lessons if you are on a path to any sort of purpose or unraveling. I don't think the lessons miss you. I think you just may have a variety of different challenges that present those lessons to you, you know? So anyway, I also think the different type of psychics that you see, you know, could be a factor as well. Like, for example, I think you do need to be careful when you go to an actual tarot reader who interprets the cards in certain ways, because I think, you know, for example, you will sometimes see tarot readers who see, they pull up the death card and they're like, something bad's gonna happen, or like the tower card and they're like, something really bad is gonna happen. And it's very fear-mongering. It's very like almost shame-based. And like, yeah, again, I don't really subscribe to people if they're always just kind of like, why did you do this? When did this happen? You're not, you know, like, when they really try to take control by acting like kind of belittling you and your situation, like, obviously that, I don't think that feels right. Like, and I don't think that either way that's very, you know, I would say, even though not a lot of people think of it this way, I would say that a psychic reading's purpose is to help you tap into your intuition and your guides. And I don't think any level of sort of like making you feel fearful or like shameful is something that comes from your guides. I don't think that sort of intention would be as helpful. But that said, there could be warnings that you would get from your guides. And I think that is true. Like, I think some people end up going to psychics, for example, whenever they are like, I've done this, whenever they are like worried about someone they're dating, or like whenever they don't feel secure about something. Yeah, like someone they're dating. Like, am I being cheated on? Like, are they dating somebody else? Is this happening? And sometimes the urge to see a psychic is because we want to connect to our intuitions and we don't know if we trust it or not. And so you're just kind of like, well, I'm going to resort to a psychic, or I don't feel secure in my work situation, or I don't feel secure in my family home. Am I right to not feel secure and to feel anxious? Or am I just feeling anxious? And in those situations, it makes a lot of sense to want to see a psychic. But I think as much as you can, although it's kind of hard to when you're in the moment, like, if you can approach it in a way where it's like, I want to know if I'm reading my intuition well, you know, like, is this happening? Is this bad? Should I move on from this? Like, it should be okay to ask those questions. But then you might get to a point, like I have in the past before, where you like rely on psychics to be like, because maybe you haven't let go of a situation, you know, like I will have dated somebody and like, I don't feel as secure in the situation. I don't know how to let it go. And then I would keep seeing a psychic like, is this right? Is this right? Should I do it? I don't know, you know? And at that point, we are building a dependency on someone else's intuition and not our own. And I think at a certain point, like, the psychics are only there as guides, really, towards you and your, you know, to help you bridge the gap between your higher self and your guides and you and your intuition. But I do think that it is important to build your own intuition. And like, yeah, okay, anyway. Is there anything else I could say with that? I don't know. And this might be a separate video, but I also wanted to share other recent psychic readings I've been getting and basically how my psychic readings have evolved. Because yeah, at first it was a lot of like discovering who I was in my past life and like sort of the challenges and like the paths that I'd be taking in this life. And then I started doing a lot of readings that were really like anxiety driven, which is okay, but also ultimately I wanted to get to a point where I could trust myself. And so I would have readings all the time about like, when do I get my next job? Or like, I don't know if I'm going to get more money, or like, what should I do to get more money? And then like, you know, other readings that are just like, should I break up with this person? Like, should I do this? And like, I think there's a point where some psychics and some people in general will profit off of and they'll benefit from that all the time. But there are times in our lives where, for me, for example, sometimes when I was talking to an actual therapist under my insurance, like I didn't feel listened to. And having that extra confirmation of someone intuitive, if they were good at it and if they were really genuine and not like, you know, taking advantage of me, then I would feel safer with someone who could literally read my energy, because I like the comfort of knowing that like if someone can read your energy, they would know what would suit your energy best, as opposed to some blanket statement of like, you have to do this because everybody needs to do it this way, you know? But anyway, I have had readings where, you know, obviously I just felt lost, but people, intuitives are there. Like, I just think intuitives are there because there are some points in our lives where other aspects of our lives are not right for us and we are outgrowing them, but we don't know how to trust our own intuition about it. Like, for example, like I've been in situations where I've worked at horrible workplaces, but I felt so controlled that like I didn't know if I should leave or not. And I've been in situations where like I have had so much medical gaslighting, or like I have had, you know, even therapists who would just be like, you know, like, just stop being nervous and get over it. Like I've had situations where holistically, physically, emotionally, and mentally, I didn't know how to feel safe, you know, around the people who were supposed to help me. So the only thing to rely on was something spiritual. And that's what often happens a lot in our lives. When hard things happen and it feels like other people aren't showing up in the way that we feel safe to, because they're all in their egos or whatever, like the only thing to rely on is a higher power, is spirituality, and in our guides, you know? So that's why in certain times of our lives, we end up having to rely on psychics or having to rely on spirituality or religion or whatever. And in those moments, like you can develop a stronger sense of yourself and your own self-trust. And I think that's the part of it that we kind of lose when we think about spirituality, because we think of it as just like, you know, it gets into the bypassing zone. It gets dangerous because it's just like, okay, now you're just like ignoring all your issues and you're deciding the universe will take care of it. No, you're still a participant. And actually a huge part of spirituality is your ability to tap into your own sense of intuition and listening to yourself and your nudges and trusting them. Because that, to me, and this is what I've been learning lately, that is how you build your actual self-confidence holistically. Otherwise, you're just relying on your ego like everybody else. And then you're losing sight of spirituality and what could be your deeper purpose. But anyway, yeah, so tangents. But I was like doing a lot of like really sort of like readings out of desperation for a long period of time. Like I want to say like for a couple of years, like while I was just sort of in this isolated in-between state. And then recently I started to like, I have been trained in spiritual coaching, and it's basically kind of connecting to your intuition. And since then, I've been getting a lot of these different psychic messages. And I've been getting a lot of I've been strengthening my intuition. Plus, I feel like my channel from like my guides and how they talk to me really has been clearer. So like when I see psychics now, they're a lot more like, oh, I see this more clearly, you know? So recently, like this past year, I want to play some clips from some psychic readings that I had. Like I've had ones with a psychic counselor, which I haven't recorded and I'm not going to include here, but here are like, how many do I have? I would say like 3 really stand out psychic readings from this year that really solidified like, oh, I'm on my path. So the first one is this woman in Ojai. Really like her. She has that little bit of like bluntness to her, but like at the core of it, I think she did get the message across well. So I'm gonna play a clip.
And shit that's not yours, and you're like this karma cleaner
Yeah.
for energy instead of you staying on your straight and narrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have to trust that firstness of you. That firstness of you is 100% spot on. You were always 100%, and it's all this other trajected and projected shit at you that made you like second guess everything about you. You know what I mean? So girl, you're on the up and up now. Mm-hmm. Girl, trust your body radar. Your body talks to you all the time. Yeah. Girl, you can't pretend you don't have the shit that you have. Mm-hmm. This is girl, this is you in all your modalities. You act like you don't have nothing spiritual, or you play dumb with your spirituality when girl, you got fucking you got some shit with this shit. It's really time to own it.
Basically, she was telling me that I spent a lot of my life being a karma filter for other people. She was just basically like, yeah, you might be in these situations over and over again because like it's like the universe kind of put you there. And like she kind of phrased it like as if, you know, it was just like an issue that like that the universe kept putting me there. But in my head, I interpreted it as like, I'm sort of meant to learn how to do that for a reason, you know? And she was also telling me that I'm coming into my gifts and my power ish now, like healer power. And she's like, you have a lot of modalities. Like you have a lot of things that you haven't been using yet. And I also understood this as, it's not that I haven't been using it, but I think I've had to spend my life understanding how to develop them. And I could only have done that through going through the challenges that I did, you know? But it's nice because it was kind of extra confirmation that it was like, yeah, you're meant to start doing this stuff now. And like she was telling me that I spent a lot of time sort of shedding my skin this year, and she was telling me like I have to go be near water. I have to basically detox, which is something that I'm doing personally right now for my like physical health. And it's insane because I got that same message from a second psychic. So I went to this event at a place called Zuladen in Culver City, and they had these people who do psychic readings via music. So this woman, this psychic, literally just like, she makes your soul song. I really liked them. They were cool. But like she channels your psychic reading through singing. And like they find like, and like basically the piano player like finds a tone that is in resonance with like basically your energy. And she was giving me like this beautiful sort of reading about how she symbolically saw me like with a black snake, which represented sort of manipulative energy, and how I was so accustomed to it. And yet most people would be afraid of that type of energy. And I'd be like, well, no, this is what I've known. And she was telling me that it was a lot of like this sort of energy that my family has had in order to survive, really, for most of like generations of our family line. And she was telling me that in this lifetime, I am probably going to be breaking that cycle. And like she was telling me, you know, and this is kind of what it feels like for a lot of us. And she was telling me that it is now transforming into a gold snake. But it was kind of crazy because like she was picking up on the fact that like, you know, it was a lot of like, it was like a mother wound. It was like a connection to like, and she was saying like, it's about this time. And so was the piano player guy. Like, it's about this time that I'm like starting to transition into like basically living my life according to my own spirituality.
There is a snake on your path. There was a
snake from the beginning. And I think that depression thing comes from your family side. It's very deep into I speak German, so sometimes I don't get the words, so I give my best. So, because the snake came and it was black, a black snake. But you were not afraid about the snake, because it's kind of like your system grew up with that. It already knows. You were just there and kind of like, okay, whatever, kind of like this. Other people would run away from a black snake, But then you were sitting and the snake was standing in front of you and looking into your eyes. And in this lifetime, I felt like you are the transformation for your family. It's you. In that moment, when you accept it completely, the snake started to change into gold. So gold energy is very important for you. So when you listen to the song again, imagine yourself with gold. Give it to the gold. And, and your mother, it comes all from your mother's line. Yeah. So, but you are not your mother. You are not your grandmother. You are not your grandma. You are your own vessel. You're your own energy. So honor that more. Come back to yourself and honor who you are.
And then I recently got another psychic reading done with someone I read with before. But it's funny because lately I've been coming up with this... sorry, there's just a lot of activity around me and I'm trying to make sure that everything is safe. Okay. But I just recently did a psychic reading with somebody who confirmed for me, like, that I just need to slowly move into my gifts. And it's not something that I can force right away. And, like, it's funny because I didn't prep her beforehand, like, to say any of that, but, like, it was what I was feeling. And I just felt great about it because it was just kind of like, okay, because most people would tell you, like, when you were going after something, go after it now and go hard and go all the way and go fast. Like, don't let time pass you by. And for me, I actually think the quote unquote fastest, but also the best and most intentional way for me to pursue things is actually to go at the pace that I need to go at. And, like, it was so confirming to me because, and I thought it was surprising too, because most people would tell you to just not think about it. But I could tell that she was reading the energy that was right for me and what my guides, like, wanted for me. And I was also telling her I was healing from things. And I think in general, when you are healing from something, you don't have to go fast.
I do feel that you could be either wanting something more than what you're currently doing. You could be wanting something to either move faster, or you're also thinking of switching something up. Whatever it is that is making you happy, you should pursue it. But there is also a sense of either you're comparing yourself to something, or you're impatient and you're wanting things to move faster.
Yeah.
But as long as you're consistent, Arielle, you are going to be successful. Because here, it's like you're thinking about what you want. You are doing rather well, actually. But then there's something in you that's like, wait, I need more. And then here, it's like, I can see this two ways because I read it intuitively. You're doing well, but you're wanting to be too hard on yourself because you want more and you want it, like, now.
Yeah.
Creative ideas that you have that are going to be successful.
Yeah.
But you do need to make sure that you're not pressuring yourself so much.
Yeah.
Because you can be, you're a little hard on yourself here
Mm-hmm.
with the King of Swords and the Four of Pentacles and the Three of Swords. It's kind of like you're looking to do something, but you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. Or, I want to do this. Well, but no, this sounds better. It's like you're at conflict with yourself.
Yeah.
But you have the financial stability. Like, whatever you put your energy towards, you will be successful at it with the Ace of Pentacles. But with the Knight of Pentacles, you slow yourself down because you're constantly thinking of, well, what if I do this? Well, then let me go back. And wait, what if I do that? You go back and forth is what I'm kind of seeing here.
Yep.
But if you were to focus on just one thing, I feel like that energy that you put into that was definitely going to start to give you the outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah.
You could be traveling or making a change to something that you want, whether it's Reiki, sound healing, or something different. But whatever you're focused on, the energy that you're putting towards that, as long as it's consistent, it's going to bring you a lot of customers because you have a lot of things, but there is a good change coming.
Okay. Well, anyway, I might talk a little bit more about my thoughts on psychics, but overall, I think, first of all, I think that they are real. I think reading intuition and reading energies is real. I also think that you need to make sure that people understand that your energy and your needs are going to be different from other people's. And that whatever it is, the point is that you go through things to lead you to learn lessons in order to fulfill your purpose. And if someone tells you, like, whatever thing you went through did not fulfill your purpose, like, see if that resonates. Anyway, so what was I going to say? Yeah, okay, well, that's it. All right, and bye.